let's just take a few moments and establish ourselves in a posture, whatever that means to you, that embodies wakefulness and dignity even at this odd time of the evening. If there is such a thing as an odd time in the evening. And keep in mind that it's perfectly possible to be fully aware and awake with your eyes open. So there's no prescription about eyes open or eyes closed, whatever's most comfortable to you. And experiencing the richness of the sensory world of the body sitting here breathing, not in isolation, but we're all here conspiring together. And I'll often use the sort of terminology of dropping in, okay? So that it takes, in a sense, no time by the clock, but we just drop into this moment fully aware, fully awake. And we don't have to push anything out of our head or pursue anything in our head, thoughts or emotions, but to just hold the entirety of your being in awareness as you sit here, moment by moment. And recognize that you're already completely whole, W-H-O-L-E, no matter what's going on in your life or in the world, even this world on fire, as we're calling it. And that this present moment has an element of timelessness to it. That when we take up residency in the now, there's an intrinsic spaciousness in both the domain of time and the domain of mind, because awareness is boundless. And you already have it, so it's not something you have to acquire. And then we just sit. Now, it doesn't take long, even for the most experienced of meditators, to, under most circumstances, realize pretty quickly that the mind has a life of its own, and it's just like the ocean. It's going to wave depending on the atmospheric conditions in your life and in your mind or body in any particular moment. And that's not a problem. That doesn't mean you're a bad meditator or something's wrong and you have to force some kind of calmness or stillness. Because the awareness is calmness and stillness, and so the awareness can hold even a mind waving and thinking and reacting, emoting. And so whatever arises in your practice, whenever you take your seat in this way, metaphorically and literally, is simply the curriculum of the moment to be apprehended in awareness without either pursuing it or pushing it away. And in that way, when the mind gets lost, sooner or later the awareness recognizes that the mind's gotten carried away in the thought stream. No problem. You see what's on your mind. That's information. And then, of course, you're already back because you're seeing what's on your mind and the fact that it wandered away. So that's awareness. So here you are again. And it doesn't matter how many times it wanders off because we're engaging in recognizing that that's just the surface of the mind getting caught up in this or that, usually repetitive patterns that go on endlessly and produce very little except anxiety and depression, anger and sadness. But the awareness, if we can learn to inhabit it right here in this moment, is not angry or sad or it just knows whatever's arising without the words. And so in a certain sense, it's an invitation to be 100% at home in the only moment any of us ever have. And it turns out now to be this one here in this, NYU Skirball auditorium. But it's equally true anywhere. That taking your seat is really taking a stand in your life, and it's outside of time and in a very real way beyond space and time, even as it's anchored in the place we call here. And I think whether you've been meditating for years or decades or whether you're fairly new to it, it might be valuable to emphasize that you're not looking for a particular feeling or to wander into some ideal meditative state where everything will be completely peaceful and copacetic. As was said, whatever arises is the curriculum. And the awareness is not disturbed by the comings and goings in the thinking mind or the reactive emotions or what's going on in the body. When you can embrace it in a kind of open-hearted way. And be the knowing, and for that matter, the not knowing, that your awareness always has been and is in this moment. And so, in a very real way, awareness can be a refuge, a shelter from the storms of the world, storms in your own world, storms in your own mind. Not an escape, but it's just a refuge. And an occasion for deep insight and the potential for Again, not escape, but moment by moment freedom. To respond to conditions rather than react mindlessly to them, which is so often what happens when we fall into mental states like fear or sadness. And lose our minds just when we need them the most. And lose our hearts just when we need them the most, because when we hear the word mindfulness, in all Asian language, the word for mind and the word for heart is the same word. So if you're not hearing heartfulness when we use the word mindfulness, you're not really understanding what is being invited. So again, perhaps taking a slow, deep, more intentional breath in with full awareness and really feeling it as it fills up the entire, torso as the diaphragm descends as far as it can descend, and the air moves into the apices of the lungs in front and back and sides, and just holding it for a moment at the absolute apex of the in-breath. And feeling that embracing of the breath. And then when you're ready, simply letting it wash out. And if your eyes have been closed, you're welcome to open them. And again, I said this earlier today, but notice I didn't ring any bells to say, okay, we're going to meditate now, and then ring some bells, say, okay, we're going to... I did that for decades, but, and I still do it, but I want to make the point that life itself is the real meditation practice. So there's no beginning and there's no end. There's just like one moment you realize, oh, my mind is off, and the next moment your mind's not off because you realized it.